Welcome back to the Flow Show, episode 4. Today we are here to discuss our post Burning Man experience and to share with you a really beautiful interview that we got with a beautiful woman on the playa and kind of dive into some of the ways that we found flow when we were out there. So, John, I'm going to kick it off to you. How was your burn?
That's all I have to say.
Sounds dusty.
Long exhale. Dusty exhale. Yeah, it's definitely one of those experiences that are hard to put into words. And I'm going to try my best with just a few. It was friction, it was flow, it was everything in between. And it was just what I needed to bring back more faith in humanity, I believe, in a lot of ways, and more faith in the universe looking out and guiding and protecting. There's a lot of good lessons in trust and a lot of letting go and surrendering.
Yeah.
What about you? How is it for you?
Oh, man. Just like you said, there was a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And I think you've said before, the amount of flow we experience directly correlates to the amount of friction that we sometimes experience. And it's hot out there, you guys. We did not have a temperature taker device, a thermometer. And so I didn't learn until after the burn how hot it was. And I still don't fully know, but it was pushing like 105, 107 or something when we were out there. And it was like an oven. And there were some serious dust storms that we had to overcome. But then when the dust settled at night and the city came to life, there was magic out there and energy out there in a vortex that I can't really put into words because it was so much. I think I described to John, you know, those neighbors who are really, really loud when you're camping. You're like, oh my God, they're so loud and they make so much noise. All of those people are at Burning Man.
It was all of us.
It was all of us. It was the loud, who could be the loudest at all hours, all the time. And
have the most fun.
And have the most fun.
Yeah,
and have the most fun and play the most and create the most. But like I think I said, it's not the heat, but the dubstep that'll kill you. Because it was so loud.
There's a lot of truth to that. We could really dive into that one, but I'm curious, where did you experience the most flow, or would you say magic?
I found the most magic when I really surrendered and I gave up where I wanted to be and when I wanted to be there and who I wanted to be with and just walked into different experiences at the right time. There's a lot of things that you're late for and that you miss. You just missed the tacos. You just missed like pancakes. You just missed this. But then there's stuff that you don't miss. You got right in line at the right time at Moon Cheese. And then you got grilled cheese. It was delicious. Or you found your friend at the right time, or you saw someone you really look up to and who inspires you at the right time. And the magic of that and the ability to listen to someone like Paul Stamets talk and lecture and share what he has to share.
All covered in dust.
And then be like, now I'm going to go see Monolink play and like bike to find him somewhere in the playa, wherever the stage is. And all that happens within the same hour. It's like, what? This is amazing. This is incredible. Well, at the same time, harsh conditions. So it's like this balance of like magic and.
Let's be real. Yeah. It's survival camping, ladies and gentlemen, at its roughest. Yeah. And then it is luxurious as can be at the other end of the spectrum. There's both. There are massive land yachts uh, of campers and RVs. There are whole, installments, what look like bases for camps.
Yeah.
And then there's people in the dirt,
In the dirt.
in their tent,
Like the guy next to
The
us.
guy next was hunkering down, reading a book during
He's
a
he,
dust storm.
he was reading the program guide for the week, but he there with his goggles on and his mask while his friend was like,
Bless his heart.
yeah, bless his heart.
He was out there though,
He
and
was.
that's the beauty of it is when you see people out there, they're usually covered in dust. If they're too clean, then
Yeah.
probably to stay away from them. There's something going on there. You
No.
trust the dusty
Trust
ones.
the
It's
dusty
kind of
ones.
a good lesson there of like the people who are out there building,
Yeah.
creating,
Yeah.
and they're there, and that was really cool to see. So
Yeah.
it sounds like for you, you found flow in letting go
Yeah.
and showing up, being in the moment, and just going with it. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. How about yourself? Any lessons from the dust?
The one that comes to mind would be getting my playa name, Travolta, where I just introduce myself as John, which I agree is quite boring. And she goes, "Oh, John Travolta," and so that kind of stuck. And
Mm.
I just went with Travolta the rest of the time. So that was really beautiful because you can really step outside of who you normally are, which I do feel John is like very John Smith and like just kind of plain and like the most common name. So I love nicknames, and usually I'll go by Flow Bro, of course. But out on the playa, you gotta have a playa name. So Travolta. Uh, and the beautiful Aura over here.
Thank you. My name is Aura. That is my playa name. It was gifted to me during a naming ceremony.
Beautiful. Beautiful names, right?
Yeah,
And maybe we should just go with that all the time. It's kind of how the vibe is out there of like, it's normal.
it is.
It's very normalizing the unnormal.
I tried to introduce myself as Aura to the hotel concierge that I checked into after, and she just kind of looked at me strangely. But her hotel was also haunted, so we have a lot. There's a lot going on there.
Well, also, if I went with Travolta all the time, then that would be stealing someone else's name in a way, and that's
Yeah,
not also not cool. Which makes me think maybe I should, at some point, adopt another playa name. But
for
to
now.
continue, that is a big part of it is stepping outside of who you normally are, dressing up, putting on costume of some kind, and looking and feeling a bit ridiculous, and going with it.
Yeah,
Really letting go and just going with it is totally everyone's vibe, and
yeah,
everyone's out there doing that. So they're all very pleased to see each other doing that.
yeah. And getting into character.
Getting into character or getting out of character is more what it felt
Mm,
like,
mm, yeah,
right? Because everyone's changing all the time into different outfits, and also going with different friends for different things and flowing in this way and that way. And yeah, like we learned from Zach, who we had on last episode, to talk about what to expect. If you want to make the playa laugh, tell her your plans. Exactly. That is exactly how it felt. You can't really make any solid plans. You just have to go with whatever's happening in that moment. If it's a dust storm, get wherever you can so that you can, or just go through it, or like the gentleman at the temple fire telling us to really just enjoy the dust storm,
yeah.
I think is what he was saying. Like it's very special when you lose track of everything around you and you're completely absorbed, like
He was
surrounded
like
in
all
dust.
for going in fully
He's like,
into it.
go for it.
He's
Like,
like, we're fenced in. There's a garbage fence. And
you
I was
can't
like,
get lost.
can't get lost.
They'll find you.
Right. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah. It makes you feel a little bit safer, but at the same time knowing that like you actually can get lost.
It's like
So
really kind of, yeah, it can get really
you
intense
can get
down
very
there.
disoriented very quickly. But that's kind of the flow of it. That's the fun of it. That's
Yeah.
the joy of it, is to be out of your element and to even become someone else for a time.
Yeah.
It's very freeing. And even like letting go of, well, we want to go see this person speak at this time, or go see this DJ play a set at this time, and then somehow still ending up there. Or we would like to see our friend and putting serious intention into seeing our friend Perception. Like,
Where were you,
where were you?
Perception?
We're gonna find you. And nothing. While at the same time riding our bikes, and right as we look up, Jamie Wheel is riding by, and we slap a high five, right?
Epic peak experiences.
Or we're just like, let's go get a breath of fresh air, and we walk outside and sit by a fire, and no one else is there but a couple people. And lo and behold, it's Aubrey Marcus doing Hoppe with his crew. And that to me is the magic of like what happens when you really let go. And of course, that's a smaller container than in reality. So if you really let go in reality, like that is a big step for a lot of people. But Burning Man provides a safer space that is just outside of reality enough to know that it'll be okay. Like there's people patrolling the perimeter. They'll bring you back if you do get lost. Someone will find you face down if you're like done for. You will get taken to see medical care, and
And
it will be okay.
it will be okay. And what I couldn't believe was the amount of bicycles
Mm.
and the non amount of any bicycle traffico accidents ever happening. There was just this continuous flow of art cars, e-bikes, mutant vehicles, and then like regular people, cruiser bicycles, and they were like everyone just seamlessly never hit each other.
And the e-bikes go pretty fast.
I know.
And they're kind of like the ones that you would be sketched out about, because out of nowhere there's suddenly an e-bike right out of the dust cloud, and you're like, oh, and or like a bunch of them going by, and you slow down and they slow down, and they're like, everyone's cool, continuing on, and like it's insane. You even mentioned it felt like Bali or Indonesia.
Yeah,
Like,
where there's not a lot of traffic lights and everyone just there's no verbal discussion. It's just nonverbal.
beep beep beep
Beep
beep
beep.
beep,
We're
beep.
all gonna flow together and like everyone just goes.
But this was even less verbal. There weren't horns. No one
No.
was beeping at each other.
And if you
well,
almost
one
ran
guy
it,
was like beep beep beep.
yeah, yeah. And if you like almost ran into someone, it'd be like, "Oh no, I'm crashing into you!"
Like
Like
slow-mo.
it was really like funny about it, and I was like, "Man, we could just be like this in real life. It would be so much easier."
And just laugh it off, because ultimately no one's in a hurry. There's nowhere to go.
Right. There really is no rush. And we definitely found that as we tried to exit the playa and discovered that it was going to take a very long time. And so we decided to instead find some people to interview, which seemed way more flowy. And we followed the art. We're like, let's find a creator, let's find someone who's invested in the art of this. And we stumbled across this beautiful vessel that we then learn is a 20-year-old Burning Man pirate ship that was originally used in the Burning Man operas. And the operas were a very big part of Burning Man, and what actually led to theme camps being a piece of this whole puzzle is people were dressing up to play in roles in these operas. And then this translated into the theme camps that we now see today. And it was just this really beautiful interview, and I can't wait to share it with you guys.
We're going to play most of it raw and just like let her shine, because to me that would be honoring that interview to its fullest. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy.
Hello, my name is Navigator. My real name is Noelle, so it's Navigator Noelle, but I don't know, that sounds kind of long. I've camped with the Mystical Misfits in 2004, and been with them 18 years, if you can believe that. Well, 2 of the years were COVID years, so those probably don't count. But we did come out to the what I call the mini man burn at Fly Ranch. They had a smaller version of the man, and it was all Crimson and the higher ups, Marion. They really wanted the man to burn no matter what. and it was viewed kind of weird by other people. They said, "Oh, all the the Borg just had a party out there all by themselves," and it was not like that at all. It was all crew. Everybody was there doing something. We all wore masks, and it was probably the most serious burn we had. The first one was very serious because they didn't tell anybody. They didn't announce it, and then it was done live for everybody. And the whole VR world was kind of up and coming, and so it was very interesting. It was all on VR, and we were part of that crew. And that was a really tiny crew. The second year, there was a few extra people, but so I can basically claim that I've gone 18 years straight and seen the actual real man burn. So that's kind of something to be proud of. And one burn, I had to leave and come back. So I actually am 18 and a half burns. But the story of our camp was that it started in 2004. Well, actually, I came by myself with a group of people, and they knew who Terry was. And the leader of the camp was John Padone. And he said, I can't wait for Terry to come back because we can go higher with the scaffolding. And 2005 was Terry's first year, and it was a disaster getting out of here. I mean, getting here because he used his work truck. He had a grip and lighting truck, broke down. Everything got thrown into their. They had a trashy truck and a good truck, and everything got thrown in the good truck, and the good truck got brought here. And we had packed. I had made a closet that I had all my stuff in, and it was amazing. And when we had to switch the truck, all of our shit got just thrown in I didn't know for like 3 or 4 days where all my stuff was, like my underwear and my socks. And it's like, where is that? So I went from, which is a typical Burning Man thing, what you expect when you come out here and what you plan for is quite often completely the opposite of what happens. So you got to kind of think about that. If you're relying on something, if you're relying on being very organized, then it's probably going to get just scattered. And that's part of it. So the story of our camp is really interesting. We went big the year that Terry came, and he loved it out here. The moment he hit playa, he was ringing that bell like crazy and down on the ground doing the dust angel and everything. And I thought, it was such a gnarly trip out that I thought, he would just hate it, or not really, but I didn't expect him to take it on. So, but sometimes out here, it really pushes you to your limit, to the point that you're just raw. And I think that's kind of what happened with that. But anyhow, so we went big every year, and we topped our year every year after that with more and more scaffolding. And that went on for about, I don't know, 5 years maybe. Sadly, the guy that was the leader, wonderful guy, John Panone, really smart, really funny. He stilt walked. He parachuted naked. He was I'm going to blow it because he has a real title, like not a light technician, but whatever oh, that's terrible. He was definitely a high up production lead guy. And he also had a big lighting board, and he would do a lot of the festivals. So he was totally in with the Do Lab and all their LIB and all that. And he sadly had a motorcycle accident. And here's a guy, literally his middle name was Danger. He was John Danger Padone. And he died in like 7 o'clock in the evening because someone tried to do an illegal turn in LA, just, North Hollywood, I think. Literally a soccer mom in a van turned, and he had come around another car because he was coming to a birthday party. A couple of the burners, we would all get together like once a month for whoever's birthday. And so we were all meeting at this kind of a club, kind of one of those clubs that's like a pool. It has a bunch of pool tables, and we're having a great time. And everybody was kind of spread out and doing their thing. It was a big club. And all of a sudden, everyone started getting these little groups and looking sad and crying. And we were like, what happened? And John had a younger brother, and they had contacted him and said, on the way to this party, he was killed. And we were all like, I mean, to all be together, to have that to have that support is, there's just so much weirdness about that. But there was supposed to be an after party at Kemper's house, and because he has a beautiful house, nice pool, jacuzzi, and the whole thing, that turned into a wake. And other people were called, and it was such a celebration of life. And it's odd to say, there's only so many people that could pull that many people together and be affected, and us all to be together. That, I don't know. But anyhow, we always bring a picture of him in camp. He did a lot of production, and he always took a picture with like the stars. And there's a great picture of him with Robin Williams, and that we bring that out every year, and we put it at the temple. So, and none of us would even, this would not even exist without John. And basically, as the years went on, and I'll wind up this story because I know I went off on a tangent. As years went on, the older people in the camp didn't want to do all the scaffolding anymore. And we're LA based, so there was always newbies coming in. So there was a shift in power that pretty much happened like every 2 years. Someone would organize their team, and for 2 years they would do the scaffolding and the whole thing, and keep going bigger and keep going crazier. And we stepped back because we were a camera crew, and we usually had a lot going on when we are here. And not that's been put on us, but that we really like it. And if you know my husband at all, he is not a sit down kind of guy. He has to be doing something, and that's what he enjoys. That's what the burn did for him, was give him another purpose. And so many times when you work in film, you're working for somebody, or you're working for that paycheck. But every second out here, you're working for yourself, and you're working for the flow of all of it. And there's things that we didn't know. We didn't know how the flame was lit, and that crimson lights it from from the sun, and then keeps it in a cauldron, and then that's given to all the fire spinners, and then that's what lights the man. We didn't know that, but we were able to cover that and make a little mini Profiles in Dust. Check out Profiles in Dust. We have lots of them. We have kids at Burning Man, and just all sorts of things that we got to bring to people in little manageable documentaries. Not everybody gets to go sit at a random theater that's going to show this long documentary about Burning Man. And a lot of people just think it's about the pretty people, and they they're tired of seeing that. I'm really proud of our camp, and I'm proud of what we took the principles, and we really took them seriously. We took, the leave no trace, and the inclusion, radical inclusion, and all that. So this is Misfit Multiverse, and it is made up of the Combobulated, the 4Ks, Rebel Rousers, who have their own Rebel car, and the most amazing group of people from Canada called Boobs and Berries. And it was named because some of the girls were camping, and they were floating around in a lake, and they were all topless, and they were eating strawberries. And one of them said to the other, "It doesn't get any better than this, with boobs and berries." And that's how they got their name. They have been doing a lot of regionals back in Canada, but this is the first time they brought their bar to Playa. So that was really, worthy of celebrating. On the subject of pretty people out here, there's a yin and yang to everything. And women tend to get the bad side of things, and men the good side of things. But when it comes to nudity, sometimes just a female nude is just so beautiful in a landscape of any kind. So you come out here and you have the most outrageous looking stuff. More than anything that any human can make, you have incredible sunsets, and you have sometimes double rainbows and all that, and even just in the dust, the human female figure is just lovely, and even girls like it, and with that, there is a yin and yang to that. There's a bad side to it, if that person comes out and has an entourage, and you could tell they've been spending all their time in their van, or their big fancy RV, and you just know that they just came out to do that. We've seen that a couple times. Someone's taking a picture, and there's the fake boobs and the this and the that, and it's like it's probably technically pretty, it's probably technically gorgeous, but it's not real. And the real people are the hard workers. The real people are the ones that are all sweaty, and you turn around and they've got, just whatever, and they are gorgeous without having to try. And so there's kind of a funny thing with Burning Man getting more and more popular. Two kinds of people gravitated out here. Aside from the artists and the community that has spread the word through their community and just brought people that they know would love it, the people are the young ravers that have gone to the rave parties, and they just want to oons 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 out here, and they don't build anything, and they just consume, and they're not doing any of the principles. So sometimes there's a bad rep for that. Then there's what they call the plug and plays. And the plug and plays are the people that are wealthy enough to come out here and have everything set up for them. Now, even Larry, when Larry was interviewed about it, and Larry Harvey being the guy that started Burning Man, and he was always a philosophical guy, so he would probably just say something about anything. He's like me, you know. Anyhow, he said, the plug and plays, there's a place for them here, as long as they provide something. He goes, and quite frankly, some of those plug and play people might be major investors. They might, because some people drop a lot of money for their ticket. And you think, well, why would someone do that? Are they being scalped? Are they being, whatever? But they give them the opportunity to say, if you want to make a donation, then you can pay, $1,400 for your ticket, and you are putting that towards some of the art that they support out here. So there can be a really great thing. The perfect example of that is our neighbors across the street here, and we've been close to them before. It's the Lemon Camp. They bring fresh squeezed lemonade, or maybe that's kind of a joke because they say, we've been out here for 6 weeks squeezing lemons. Anyhow, it's super good, whether they actually squeeze it themselves or not. And they offer the lemonade to anybody and everybody. So Lemon Camp is, I guess, a plug and play. I mean, when you see them in the back, they've got the tables all lined up for the meals that they're given, and the RVs are all back there. But they have a nonstop lemonade stand that is fun. They also this year had a whole painting area where there were easels and paint for everybody. And then they had a little art show. I don't know what they did with all the pieces, because there was a couple that I was like, I like that one. That one's good. So they were very present on Playa. They were very clean. They did some amazing lighting, so it looked great on the street. So thumbs up for that plug and play. Now, some other friends of ours were hired to take on a group of people, and we got to see their plug and play. And they had a dome that you walked in with all these costumes and all this other stuff. And they made a good deal of money being the person providing all that. And they were hired by somebody else, so there was a lot of people hired. But there was a lot of people that wouldn't have been able to afford to come to the burn. They earned money, and it was a good thing. So the plug and play thing isn't always a bad thing.
What is Burning Man at its core? For you, perhaps.
Well, I'm glad you said for you, because that is what Burning Man is what it is for the individual. It's deliberately vague, whatever the man burning means to the individual. The figure of the man is deliberately kind of androgynous. I mean, when you look at it, it's basically kind of a stick man. I remember talking to some of the when we were doing interviews to Harley, and she's one of the lawyers and one of the and she speaks so well. And I said, have you ever decided to have a burning woman? And she said, absolutely not. And I was like, ooh, sorry I asked that question. She goes, no, it's Burning Man. Like when you refer to humans as mankind, you don't have to say womankind, But when you do make it a woman, you isolate the men. So anyhow, I was so bummed that that was such a dud of a question. But you can't be all winners. Um, so the meaning of the man. So the meaning of the man for me is a restart. Um, the burning of the man is always a party, and it's fun, it's loud, it's exhausting. But the burning of the temple, to me, is the true restart. Most of us have lost somebody. If you haven't, like you're a young person, you haven't really lost anybody yet, you've at least lost a pet. There's a lot of pets in the temple, and it's just so emotional. And I love to get to the temple early because I love to see the transition of it. And if you've lost somebody in the year, you can bring a picture, a remembrance, some of their clothing, some of their. They look down on people actually bringing ashes because the Paiute Indians get upset about that, but people do. I brought a little tiny bit of ashes, my friend, uh, 2 years ago. But it's powerful. It's really powerful. And one of the last times we visited this year, and I actually only visited it twice, it was one of those whiteout days. And to see the temple with so much stuff, and we went on Saturday because on Sunday they close it off and they get it ready to burn. So Saturday was the last day, and I had put stuff up, but I didn't have my phone with me, and I wanted to take a picture of the stuff I put up. And it was so windy and so whiteouty, and it was such a metaphor for dust to dust, turning to dust, and seeing all these pictures. And a lot of people will remember somebody with a lot of pictures. Sometimes it's just a single picture. But if it's someone real well known, especially well known in this community, more people will put and add stuff to it. So it'll be like a little shrine for that person, or they'll full on bring a shrine for that person. And to see how all the different examples of how people are representing that loss to them. And you could tell that that loss is not a loss, that they're still with them. And all those people being in the temple, and that's the power of the temple. The temple is kind of its own thing, and I always feel like, even though the temple is completely different every year, that when you put somebody in the temple, that you can visit them again, and that send off, that burn, that restart, that down to the ground is puts them all in the same bus, so they don't have to go up by themselves. And when they get there, who's going to greet them? All the other people that were out in the temple before. And it's a kind of a support system. So I know it's kind of a weird thing to think of it that way. I'm not really a religious person, and I'm a Libra, so I always analyze things. And I'm not so sure there is an afterlife. But I'm going to play my bets on both sides, And if there is, they're all up there. They're partying. They got in the greeters. They're doing real angels, not just dust angels. And so when you leave that picture up, you're telling that person, like for instance, my brother found a really big picture of my mom, and I was adopted, and it must have been rolled, but it was all bent. So it's like we weren't going to be able to do anything with that picture. So, and it rolled up like that big, and she was an entertainer. She's doing this. She's doing the finale. Ta-da! And so I put that picture up, and it's like that big. I also had a picture of Pepe. One of the pictures didn't come out perfect, so we had a good one and a bad one. Of course, the non-perfect one is the one that didn't burn. So that's just the way Burning Man is. So I put Pepe and my mom, and so it's kind of like introducing the two of them. It's like, mom, you're gonna love Pepe, And I put John Pinot and Robin Williams. So it's like, John, Robin, you guys, take care of my mom, and here's Pepe, and then the final thing was my friend Judith came up from Florida, and she's been a friend of mine for a long time. I haven't seen her in 30 years. We used to work in a wine and cheese bar, and we both got into scenic painting and production at the same time. We lost a friend, where is he, named Paul Price. We would call him Tigger because at the wine and cheese bar, there was a couple other Pauls, and he had an English accent, and he said, call me Tigger. And so this is a picture of Tigger, even though there's lots of pictures of him. This is when I dated him, and I dated him for at least a year, and I really asked for his forgiveness because I really broke his heart. And I think in his later years, he never found the right girl, and he was really lonely, and he actually passed away in his sleep. And he's not that much older than I am. And I think he died sad. So, and Judith had a dream while we were here that he had not crossed over, and that she wanted to run up to him and give him a kiss, and he said, "Don't, because you'll stay in this limbo with me." How heavy is that, you know? And she was his roommate for a while, and we all worked at the same wine and cheese bar. So we made a pact that we would take him around, and we would try to reach his spirit wherever it is and get him out of that limbo and release him. And we had another picture of him like this, and a second picture, and we put him into the temple. And I really hope that he got on that bus, and that he is surrounded by people that he probably doesn't know, but they're going to love him. And it's sad for me, because I always felt like if things got really bad, and I hope everybody has this person in their life, if things got really bad, I'm showing up at Tigger's house, and we're going to run away together. And I know he would have run away with me. I know it. And I never told him that. And so on the boat the other night, everybody was getting down, and Judith and I had gone up because we were going to have a talk with Tigger up there. And a bunch of people joined us, and that didn't happen. And then as everybody left, it was just me and Dr. Ra, and she's a psychiatrist. And I said, or psychologist. I said, will you be present for this? I really need to, I need to say something to my friend. And she said, absolutely. So it was much longer, you know, it was really involved, but I basically said to Tigger, I said, I'm sorry, you know, we lost touch. But you were my runaway partner. You were my when things get really bad. And I just want you to know that. So anyhow, I hope he released and he's up with all those people. And you would love Burning Man, Tig. You would love it. And I hope you did have fun. So anyhow, that was the one. And I did that with my friend Brian. I had different pictures of him, and I would find like a really pretty girl with nice boobs, and we'd stick them in and take a picture, and then we made a little album of Brian at Burning Man. But that little story is the power of the temple, because so many of us, when we lose someone, we have a regret, and that temple is full of regrets, and full of love, and full of journeys that weren't taken, and adventures that we didn't get to do, and wine that wasn't drunk, and it's all released. It's all released, and it's the big start over, that more so than the man. And in years that you're not sad about something, and with COVID, I mean, hell, we all lost people, and our lives changed, you know. It was nice to take that and put that in the temple and release it. So I think the meaning of Burning Man is different for everybody, and the best gift out here is the gift to start over. So that's what I'd say about that. You know, sorry I'm not drinking wine, Tig. Since this particular vessel is what brought you here, it has a soul to it. It has its own flow that is some kind of magical thing that is unexplainable. And as you're following the flow of humans, I truly believe that this rusty bucket of, you know, weirdness and paint and crust and bird poo and rat crap and urine, it has a soul. It really does, and it's going to outlive all of us. And I think it began when Pepe made it. And Pepe Ozan was the creator of this vessel. He was a true Renaissance man. Women loved him. He was the Casanova, you know. Men loved him, and they were like, okay, this is I had someone say he was the example of what a man ought to be. He was a man's man. And he was an amazing artist on so many levels, mostly notably known for his welding. So that's why there's amazing welding. I mean, just the ladder you get up on is like, whoa. And he was part of the first group of people to come out here when Burning Man moved from Baker Beach, which was in San Francisco, and real easy for people to go to. It had a few years that it got bigger and bigger. And Larry had said, "Why have a bonfire? Let's build a structure." Well, when they came out, like I think that's the second or third. Well, it had to have been like the third year. The police came because there was a big crowd, and they said, "You can't burn that out here. That's dangerous. That's And basically, they said they made Larry promise, and there's film of this, actual footage. They made him promise that they could set it up, but they could not burn it. So that was the only year that the man did not burn. And basically, they said after that, we have to find another place. And there was a cacophony society and some other just fun loving, crazy San Francisco types that would go off and do these weekends of different stuff. And so the combination of their energy and momentum combined, and they had been coming out to Nevada because you can have fire, you can build stuff, you can do lots of stuff you can't do other places, and there's nobody to stop you. So they came out here, and then I think that first year was probably kind of a mellow year, not a whole lot of people. But then word got out, and then it just doubled every year, more and more and more. And in '97, it couldn't be a free for all anymore. They had to make that was when they first made the roads, and that made it a city. So that was kind of cool. And then they're like, well, we can't be a city if we don't have a newspaper. And then everything else happened after that. But '97 is when it became a real city, and they didn't allow guns anymore because they used to have guns out here and they shoot things, and they'd have dogs and animals, and they had camels out here. Camels! Because apparently there's a big camel race in, I forget where, but someone on the way here was like, but they said that was a really gross year because there was a lot of camel poo. So yeah. Anyhow, and then Larry, there's this famous picture of Larry because they made fun of consumerism, and they had the Camel cigarettes, and then there's Larry because he was a notorious cigarette smoker, and this big camel head, and so it's kind of cartoony, but it was very funny. So anyhow, when it was still in those smallish numbers, Pepe came out, and he decided, what a great place to make an opera. And he would weld these crazy, huge, big spires, I guess, at least for one of the operas he did. And he welded it with this mesh kind of stuff on it. And they went to Trago Hot Springs, and they filled up his truck with mud, all sorts of mud. And this is sort of the beginning of nudity out here. One of the guys was telling me just yesterday, I learned this. He said, we didn't used to be nude out here. He says, we would go to the hot springs, and we would all be nude out at the hot springs. He said, but when Pepe came back with his truck full of mud, he was naked, and then that's the naked part started happening. And basically, he would put the mud on all these spires. And so as you know, when you see playa that's been wet and dried, it has all these crackles in it. So they built in at the bottom of these spires, they built fire. So these things were over like a fire thing, and during the performance of the opera, they lit them. And so they were all around the people. So it was super dangerous. Like, you could never do that now. And the stuff would start flaking off and cracking off, and the operas would kind of go on for a long time. They to me, I've just seen footage of it. They to me were more like a combination of a drum circle and a kirtan. I think it's kirtan, where you're sort of saying mantras and chants and things like that, and they were going for hours. But the biggest part of the operas were that everybody was included, and people knew ahead of time coming out that they were going to be part of for the Ark of the Nereids in 2002, which is what this boat was made for. It was the Atlanteans meeting aliens. You could only imagine, and it had nothing to do with like a narwhal, really, and it was called Ark of the Nereids, and a Nereid is like a mermaid, but they don't have the tail. They just have fins on their legs, and they are daughters of Poseidon. And anytime there was a shipwreck, and miraculously, a handful of people would live and make it to an island, it was said that the Nereids saved them. So they were good. They're the opposite of sirens, where the sirens lure the men to have their boats crash on the rocks so that they can, do their bidding. But so people would come and they'd be part of that tribe. Well, we're part of the aliens, or we're part of the Atlanteans. There was some kind of bug thing one year, and so they were insect people, but there were different tribes, and they would be in it all week, and they would decorate their camp like it. So it really was the forerunner to what we call theme camps, that are now like a camp around pickles, or a camp around vampires, or a camp around whatever, but the operas kind of set the stage for that. The operas themselves had a great run. There was probably 4 or 5 years that they were really strong. I don't know if it was due to Pepe getting ill later in life, but the 2000 Arc of the Nereids was a much lower key, and basically the operas ran their course, and with more people, they were more into the booze, and they were getting more into the music. And now there's huge sound camps out here. But apparently Larry hated the sound camps, so there was always this tension. We're not a rave, we're not a music, we're not here for the DJs, And for people who took road trips with Larry, they said that, I said, well, what kind of, this is one of my questions, and in our camera crew, we always, at the end of the interview, if anybody has a question, and then you get some really funky answers. And so that used to be my expertise, was to throw like a whammy out there. And so one of them was his best friend that he was roommates with. And I said, so, when you're driving with Larry, and you said he's not too into music, what kind of music would he play in his car? Was he, they came out of the 60s, so I was expecting maybe Led Zeppelin or Cream or some, or Neil Young or something. He goes, no, Larry liked to listen to show tunes, and we'd all sing. I was like, really? Really? And so that just cracked me up. There was a general flow of what was acceptable and what events have become with this. Now there's all kinds of great events with lots of DJs and art and sustainable, different workshops and things like that. But Burning Man was really the start of that. And it's been going on for 30 years, and it's like progress. It's like rock and roll. You don't necessarily, if you make a song now, you don't necessarily give the Beatles credit, but there's that flow, that continual flow. And so just the whole theme camp thing came out of the operas, and yeah, a lot of good stuff came out of that.
I'm curious if you can talk a little bit more about the creation that goes into art cars like this.
Yeah.
And how you
again, I go back to my stock answer of, for creation and flow, it's very unique to the person. And on my first burn, I remember being totally blown away, and different people are blown away, I could do costumes, I could this and that. I was like, you can make art and drive it and have music and have your cooler and snacks in it, and instead of walking everywhere. And I had to have an art car. And it was funny because after Terry's first burn, he wanted to make it's this art piece called The Scream, and he wanted to make it coming out of the desert, out of the desert. And I'm like, why don't we make it coming out of the car? And we combine the car and the scream, And he was, oh no, it's got to be coming out of the earth. So everybody has their own thing that really grabs them out here. And part of what I think is so inspirational about Burning Man is it gives you the okay. Like, he might not have wanted to make the scream someplace else, but he might have wanted to make something. But when the idea came and he could do it, and then there's nobody saying no, it's like you can do it and other people can enjoy it, and it just gives you that it's okay. Come out here and do it, And really, we're all oddballs, especially the ones that really feel like this is home. Again, there's that back to the first thing about the pretty people and this and that. I don't know if they feel so much that it's home, because if they're here and they're about their body and about their image and getting their image on that, they're going to go home with a whole different thing. They're going to go home with that same person. They didn't release anything. They aren't a new person, and maybe that's not important to them. Maybe that was, who knows? But I think for the core group of people, they want to leave here as a new person, and they want to flow into something new. So I think that's really important. And the creativity, I don't know why it just really hit me this year, was Pepe must have been obsessed to have created a narwhal. I mean, that's really odd and just such detail. Um, so it's the offspring, and I do think he has at least a daughter. It's the offspring of his that will live forever, and it's a creativity inspiration. It's a creativity maker. It caused you guys to stop here. It brings people here, and so when this was made in the opera, 2002, this year's its 20-year birthday. And I didn't even realize that until we were working on it, doing a work party on it. And somebody said, I was here back then, da 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 da. It's his 20th birthday. I was like, why did we miss that? So, anyhow, it's now flown into a different life. And when it was abandoned at the first ranch that Burning Man had called the Dog Ranch. And that's where all the cargo containers are. And it was a skeleton. All the stuff was falling off. And one of the gals in the organization, young, pretty gal, Megs, is a singer. And she goes, "Oh, we got to have that for a stage. Let's ask Pepe. Pepe was still alive. Let's ask him if we can take it and fix it up." And so she was the first to really give it its next chapter in life. But it had a little chapter in between that, because a lot of the kids that would come out, that were kids of the people that were working out at Dog Ranch, they would play on this. So it was like a swing set and a climb on thing, and it's dangerous. It's got nails sticking out. It's metal in the hot sun, and there are kids that grew up being out here, and so it did. So that was actually its second chapter, and there might have been chapters in between. And I am determined to set up something where I can get the stories from people, because I only get them little bits and call it Journal of a Narwhal. So it's had all these different little lives, and it's still creating things, And so Megs had asked us, because we worked under her in the board, and she was our liaison of who, once they started seeing what we did, they were real nice to us, and they started comping us our 6 tickets and our 6 commissary passes and some gas, and they were really wonderful. And we got to not have to make our art car. It's a staff car, so we didn't have to prove to DMV, because that's a whole nother thing. And they're real snarky, and they deliberately try to just be jerks over there sometimes, but all in the for safety. Anyhow, she said, we are doing a funeral processional for this wonderful, amazing artist Pepe, and we're going from the center camp all the way down to the temple. And we're going to have stilt walkers, we're going to have opera singers, we're going to have all this other stuff. And she says, but the car that he made, the vessel he made, is not self-movable. It needs to be pulled. Would you pull this trailer for this processional? Is going to happen on Wednesday. Now, Megs is wonderful, and we would have said yes to anything. And I didn't know at the time. I just knew who it was for. I didn't even know what it looked like. We didn't know anything. We were just going to pull a processional for this wonderful man that a lot of people loved. So we show up, and we see the horn on that, and we're like, did we even think if the horn would clear our car? It clears with a foot. Like, it was seriously close. We had the best time. And I hope when I die that they have a great time at that funeral, and people still talk about it like a wedding, like a really good wedding. I was like, oh, that wedding was the best, That funeral processional was the best. And we have a video of it, and it's called Tale of a Whale or something. Terry made a little video, and it's real cute. And Megs is singing on it, and it's cut with some pictures. I mean, some footage of Meg singing somewhere else, and she sings Minnie the Moocher is the song. And so it came out. It's a cute little video. So we do that, and that's Wednesday, and we say, all right, where do we drop this wonderful thing off? And Meg says, she goes, I didn't think that far ahead. She goes, can you take it to your camp? Yeah. And she goes, I know it's a little rickety, so don't cruise in it, but you probably could take your whole camp out to the burn and watch the burn from it. What? I was like, are you kidding me? And so that's what we did, and we were very. I knew one of the things I knew when I was given charge of this was that anybody gets hurt, I mean, other than a cut on a nail or it's the a splinter, anybody gets hurt, it's over. So that has always been my first and foremost. And anybody says safety third on the boat, I'm like, get off the boat. It's safety, safety. If you have to say it 3 times, then maybe that's safety third. But I always knew it was like. And the other thing Meg said to me, she says, as long as you don't ask them for any money, she says, you probably have this thing, for a long time. And so I took both things to heart. Nobody gets hurt. Everybody looks out for each other, and we do our own fundraising, and we do our own, and so far so good. And I made a pact myself with this lovely fish. And I think of it as an androgynous thing. Like a lot of people say she or he for the boat. And I've always thought of it a little more on the he side, just because I kind of think of it as Pepe, but I don't correct anybody, and mostly I think of it as neither. And so I said to this creature, I said, if you look out for us and you keep us safe, I promise you, before I pass the torch to the next person that's going to, see this through and pass it on to the next person, I promise you I will make a show for you specifically about a narwhal. And its original name was Ark of the Nereids. So for this 20th anniversary, I didn't know what the show was going to be, but it was going to be Nereids of the Ark. And so we couldn't really pull off an opera. So basically, I started talking to different people who were going to perform on it. And in true Burning Man fashion, we got up there, and half of the people that said they were going to come did not come. So I never let it upset me. And this is probably the best thing about flow. And this was the one I was asking you to remind me of later. It became an open mic. And we had one song that we knew we were going to do. And then we had a couple guys in camp, one that plays a mandolin and has a little harmonica thing. We knew they were going to do some songs. And then we have a great gal that plays a violin like beautifully. So we knew we had her, right? So she played very ambiently as soon as the last of the temple fell. And people started, blowing their puffers with the smoke, and already the spell had been broken. So we didn't want to break that spell. We just wanted to add to it. So she started playing her violin. She played for actually a really long time, and she was supposed to play in our song, the "Feel the Day," that was written. My friend wrote 2 weeks before we left, because I was like, I don't have an opera, and I really promised this fish, and if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen at the 20th anniversary. So he actually listened to me. I gave him this long list of what I wanted in the song. I wanted it to have a ambient build, and be the feel of like the Titanic song, or like that Kate Bush running up that hill, na 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 na, that like some guts, some oomph, and I said I wanted to start out with a single voice that's raspy and strong. And if it's a Nereid, where the Nereids have been called to come out of the ocean to save humans from themselves. And so it should be a little bit about like, hey humans, what did you do to my ocean? Hey humans, And then I want there to be a hook. I want there to be a really catchy hook. And then I want it to have a happy ending. So everybody walks away happy. He blew us away. And I didn't get to hear it before we left, because I left earlier. Rob, and I don't know, what's his last name? I don't know. But anyhow, Rob is a composer, and he does stuff for studios and things like that. So he has a little thing set up in his place. And we're really good friends with his girlfriend, and she says, and I had told her, I wanted to do something. She goes, and that it was kind of falling apart, and I was leaving without any real music. And she goes, why don't you ask Rob? She goes, he's about ready to go away for the weekend, but he just finished up some projects. Just write him a little text, right? So that's when I wrote him that whole little, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, da, 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 da. And so he had a version of it without someone singing it, and then he had one of his friends that's a studio recorder, beautiful voice, sing it. He came out and played it for me for the first time. We had the first happy hour. Boobs and Berries had I forget what their theme was that day. I think it was a send-off for the boat, and everybody was in sailor outfits. and there was a gal, a really cute gal with a raspy voice singing as the DJ, and she was doing DJ and singing a little bit. And I was like, well, there's our singer, because we weren't sure if we were going to sing it, if we were just going to float around and dance while the music plays or what. But I'm like, she could do it. She could do it, right? But I hadn't heard it yet. So after that, they finished happy hour, kind of quieted down, and we were looking for a place to put to listen to it. And he said, I don't want you to hear it on the phone. I want you to hear it loud because there's so many subtle nuances in it. So so we said, can we put it on, right? Oh my God, when it started, I just started to cry. I was like, oh, he got the first part, And then when the girl starts singing, I was like, whoa. And her voice was just like reaching into your heart and just, And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then sure enough, it builds, and then it goes into a chorus that's a real hook. And then by then I'd kind of stopped crying, but I was like getting into it. I probably would have like really lost my shit if it weren't for the fact that I was standing on the other side of the bar, and the girl behind the bar was standing there, and the bar, because it's boobs and berries, it's all pictures of boobs, different boobs, right, and guys' junk, and and I kept looking up to this girl. And in the reflection of her glasses was like boobs and junk and penises, and I was like, and there was oh my God, and I was a mess. But anyhow, so there was a flow to it, like that was a flow of creativity, is that I offloaded this idea to him. He built it but couldn't show me. We come out here, I see him for the first time. We're, the beginning of the week, you're in this half mode where you're almost set up. And the beginning of the week was hard this year. It was really dusty and nasty. And then we had these like 3 brilliant days of just beautiful sun and beautiful, and then a couple other ones just to remind us of how gnarly and scary it gets out here. But that flow, that momentum. And then it was kind of like, well, what are we going to do with that? Are we going to do the, and then he was asking me, well, what do we have for sound? Oh shit, I don't know. We're not going to have those speakers. We're not going to. So there had to be a momentum and a flow, and we couldn't let it stop us. And maybe it was pushing us and not letting us just be, oh, we don't have this. Oh, we don't have, And I bought microphones, so we knew that. And Ian, who does sound, his playa name is Soup, Sound Out of Place. He was like, well, I got a mixer. He goes, but he has 3 inputs, so you're only going to have. We need the 2 inputs for the music, and the 1 input for the sound. For the microphone. And I'm like, well, I have 2 microphones. He's like, well, no, you just have 1 microphone. I'm like, well, that's okay. I can sing loud. So, and I was going to sing like the alto part. Like I knew I was not going to be able to pull off and I wasn't going for that. And I'm usually like you guys. I'm usually behind the scenes. I'm usually the micing the person. I'm usually the, you got some goob in there. You got something on your teeth. That's me. And then come up with the zinger of the question afterwards. So this is weird for me, but it's kind of fun. So I did dolled up a little, put a little bit of makeup on. The only time I'm playa since, so you guys were lucky with that. So to finish this story, to wrap up the flow, we set a time to meet out on playa. We do. We didn't really actually hit that time, and we didn't hit the thing that we told everybody to come out to, because Terry was driving, and I'm like, there's the shark. There's a sparkly shark where I told everybody to meet us. We went past it, but if you got to the sparkly shark, you could see us. You wouldn't be able to miss us. So sound was an issue. We got there, the generator wasn't working, and Terry's cursing, and I hear it go, ning, 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 ning. That went on for like 10, 15 minutes. All of our girls for the song showed up on time, so they're ready to go, right? And none of us have heard the song, except for Ingrid, the girl that was the DJ and we're going to sing the main part. So I say to Rob, well, while we're waiting for everything to set up, can you put it on your phone? He says, yeah. So we all huddle around his phone, and we all kind of sing it a few times. And I'd written the chorus on no. Anyhow, I'd written the chorus for everybody, and I said, it doesn't matter. Just have it there. You can hold a seashell and hold it. And nobody's going to give a damn. So we practiced it a little, and then there was so much uncertainty about it. But none of us were really worried, and everybody was coming to me and asking questions, and I couldn't answer any of them. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if we're going to have a generator, And then Terry comes back with a generator. By then, Soup had set up all the different cables and whatnot. And so we weren't sure how it was going to go. It started. Merritt played a violin. After a little while of her playing the violin, she snapped the bridge on her violin, which I felt terrible about because she brought her good violin. It just went blink, and we were all like, and then we were all like, what do we do now? What do we do now? And we're like, well, do the song, do the song, do the song. So we all got really quickly for the song. And Merritt was supposed to play during the song. Now, Merritt is a solid performer, and that's what she does for a living, right? So now our solid performer, she was going to sing some in the background. She was going to be our anchor, the real, for the chorus, anyhow, and play the violin. Now she's in here worrying about trying to, and then I'm feeling bad about that. And so we just do the song. And it's the first time we didn't even test the microphones. We didn't even have we'd only just sort of did it, right? So it was like go for broke. It was amazing. Ingrid just rocked it, and she had such a good voice, but not the perfect voice, not the you could tell she'd been out here for a while. There's a little rasp to it and a little intensity to it, and she was intense, and we're all kind of trying to look pretty, but all of their hair's all messed up and things are broken, and and I made the little hair clips for everybody, so those were kind of a little goofy looking, but it did give us like a little continuity, and we just sang it, the three of us, and Rob was right down there, and it just came out amazing. I was so happy. And then we knew she was going to leave afterwards, after it was all done. And then it was like, well, who goes next? What goes next? And none of the people that I thought were going to come. Megs didn't come, and Meg's full-on like bluesy singer, right? Had she come, it would have been the Megs show. And that would have been okay. That would have been fun. People would have enjoyed watching it, and maybe sing a little bit if they knew the song. But she sings kind of off, not regular ones, except for the one that I mentioned. So, and she's sung many times on this boat. So it would have been the Meg show if that had happened. Instead, it was like, what do we do? Oh shit, what are we gonna do? And we knew the guys that with the mandolin would play, right? So I'm like, Matt, you come next. And he had a couple songs they were gonna do. One was this Irish thing that kind of goes on and on, but then there was this other happy, funny song. I'm like, Matt, come on, do the funny song. Come on, do the funny song. So he did. So it was a perfect like flow, a perfect flow, and not at all, because everyone's saying, what order are we going? What order are we doing? And I'm like, I don't know yet. And that's not the answer that anybody wants, It's almost better to give them an answer and then know that you're going to change it. But then they're kind of like, well, you're always changing, But I don't know. As a Libra, I'm used to changing my mind a lot, It's like, we'll analyze it, and that's a better option. We'll go with that one. So that was the flow, was our song, and we blasted it out, and a lot of people gathered. Her song was really touching and amazing, and then the happy song, and then the whole lot of happy songs on. I'm like, we got nothing else. Merritt was going to play more violin. Megs didn't show up. There was a girl that showed up in our camp and asked to sing at the top of the boat. And I said, what do you sing? She says, opera. I'm like, and she had a mermaid outfit. She was supposed to come. So we might have lost her and not being by the sparkly shark. But anyhow, she was camped near us. So that'll just have to be another time. But I'm like, what do we have? What do we have? So after Matt finished, I said, I was just trying to kind of kill some time. I wasn't sure if I was just going to thank everybody and we'd go on our way. I said, is there anybody here who would like to sing? And Matt and Shri, after their happy song, went into the Irish, the song about Dublin. So that set a tone for like Irish songs, pub songs, and things like that. When I said, does anybody want to sing? And I didn't realize, I thought people were just standing there. There was a line. There was a line, and everybody came up and sang a cappella. And they were good. Like every single one of them. If they weren't hitting the notes, they made it funny. And the flow was just like being caught up in a wave. It was like I couldn't even stop it. And it was so much better than I could have imagined. It became like an open mic. And I just know Pepe loved it. I know he loved it. And the diversity in it was great. The girl came up and she said she was Russian. And she says, this is a song about, and she gave us all this stuff. This is a song about going home, and da 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 da. And then it was all in Russian. And that was amazing. Then a girl came up and she said, I'm from Barcelona, and gave us a little bit of a, a thing. Another voice that was this amazing, and in a raspy Spanishy way, and then there was a couple pub songs. There was a couple real funny guys that came up, all of them a cappella, no music. So except for the mandolin and then the violin we broke.
Well,
So that was the best flow story I could even ever tell you. In the pursuit of creativity, I think there's a validation, I mean, some people might create, they might just sing when nobody's around, but it's another level of it to get a little bit of validation. And I think that's part of one of the human things, that even if you're not ego driven, at some point you want someone to say, good job, and for the most part, burners out here compliment people a lot. And then there's snarky assholes too. And you can get both from the same person. And that's kind of the fun yin yang of it all. But this gave me a real purpose. I went through a few years. A lot of women probably do if they don't have children. I would have liked to have had children. I was adopted myself, and I would have liked to have adopted, but it just didn't really happen. I started coming to Burning Man in my 40s, and that would have been the last time to really, if I really wanted to hone in on that and make that my focus. But then all of a sudden Burning Man was there, and I joked that my art car was my child, and the head that Terry had to make was those are our two kids. But there was a time, probably my late 40s, when I realized I'm not going to have kids, and we weren't financially stable enough because we were both freelance people. And freelance is a scary thing. It's perfect if you have a partner and the other partner is not freelance, because then you have something to fall back on. You have something steady you can count on. But when you're both freelance, it's scary. And as Terry's career was taking off, that meant he was traveling more. And I was happy for him traveling, but I was getting really sad. And he didn't really know it. I didn't really tell him a lot, but I would spend a lot of time just by myself and sad. And I learned to go to a lot of the events and a lot of the parties because, anytime we plan on something, sure enough, you plan to go to something, you'll get work. If you're not working, there's nothing going on. And that's just part of freelance. But there was a deep sadness that I wasn't going to be a mom. And for women, I think it's just in our hormones and our nature. So I did have bouts of depression. This gave me a really odd purpose. And it stuck. Part of the Burning Man experience is when you leave here, you go back into the default world, and you take a lot of elements from it, and you try to be a better person. You try to start over, and you do, but it's different. But then when you come back to Burning Man, you start where you left off. This gave me a feeling of somebody, being somebody. And as much as I didn't know what the show was going to be, I navigated it, and I navigated people to come up here, and I fulfilled my job, and it gave me a feeling of purpose, and it's like, it's okay you didn't have kids, because if you had kids, you wouldn't be able to spend your time out here doing this. And I can navigate certain situations that inspire people to they're always inspired out here, but sometimes there's something, and this is that something for some people. And one thing I will say about flow, we don't know it, but we are in a long-term flow. And as a person who has been in and out of depression at different times, I'm glad I made it through, because when I look back at the flow of it, and not just keep sounding just cliche and say the yin and yang of it, but it really is a flow. And the definition of flow probably has a specific definition, but I would like to define flow as when you're in yoga, and if there's flow yoga, you are concentrating on your breathing. So there's an in and an out. And when you're in the flow, there's no there's no difference. It's the perfect balance of the in and the out. So I'm super glad you guys are doing a thing on flow, because everybody can do something about the burn. Everybody can do something about talent and fire people and great musicians and amazing bars and bacon. Shout out to bacon. Even all of our vegetarians love bacon out here, because all you have to do is smell it and you're like, bacon is like the superfood out here. And it brings people together like fires do. And that's what Larry always said, that about the fires. He goes, fires bring people together. He says, when we did that first burn on Baker Beach, he says, people we didn't know came up. And then we're talking to people we didn't know. That wouldn't happen without the fire. So fire and bacon. That's flow.
Wow.
Thank you so
So
much.
Seriously, thank you.